live in its beautiful shade. Allahumma ameen. I've been getting a lot of requests about the book, so I just want to briefly. This book, it's Ayyuha al-Walad al-Muhib, authored by Imam al-Ghazali, who is one of the great scholars of Islam. This, I introduced the book to you. People have been asking where to get it. It's a very accessible book in Arabic, and there are a few translations out there. People have been sending me and asking about the translations. I tell them the translation is acceptable. Not great, but it's not bad. It's acceptable. So you can use the translation. For those of you who want it in Arabic, you can buy it online. You can find it on PDF. The best version of this book is actually this one. There's two publishers that produce really good books in general. Darul Bashair al-Islamiyya and Darul Minhaj, the two versions that I think are the most high quality in terms of editing and just integrity of production is Darul Bashair. This is actually my favorite one, and Darul Minhaj. Darul Minhaj are two publishing houses that, generally speaking, they do very good work with their publications. So, inshallah, hopefully that helps for those of you who are looking for the book. Tayyib. So next he says, أيها الولد, my dear beloved son, قد علمت من هاتين الحكايتين أنك لا تحتاج إلى تكثير العلم. He says, you have now learned from these two stories that it's not that you are in dire need of an abundance of knowledge. Takthir means that the actual ihtiyaj, the actual need that you have is not just acquiring and acquiring and acquiring more and more knowledge. Not to say that's a bad thing to have more knowledge, but that's not the ihtiyaj, the need. Because sometimes you can be someone who acquires an entire library of knowledge, but if that knowledge, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَالْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. There are those who can carry an abundance of knowledge, but like a donkey carrying books on its back, it doesn't mean anything. So he said, the ihtiyaj is not takthir al-ilm. وَالْآنَ أُبَيِّنُ لَكَ مَا يَجِبُ عَلَى سَالِكِ سَبِيلِ الْحَقِّ. Now I'm going to articulate to you what you need, what's obligatory for you, لِسَالِكِ سَبِيلِ الْحَقِّ, for those who are traversing the path of truth. Meaning, I want to be in this life on the path of truth. I don't want to be deluded or distracted by any of the trappings of excellence, as the social theorists would call it. I don't want the trappings of the dunya to dictate the terms. Rather, I want to be on the path of haqq. All right, what is the true path of this life? And that's the whole nature of this existence, is understanding that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا إِنَّ هَذَا سَبِيلِي فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. This is my path, so follow my path, and don't follow the alternate paths, فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ, that it would then disperse you from the path of God. And that's the nature of the paths of this dunya. The objective of the paths of this dunya is to take you from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's like, now, my beloved student, if what you want is the path of haqq, then let me empower you with that knowledge. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ يَنْبَغِي لِلسَّالِكِ شَيْخٌ مُرْشِدٌ مُرَبٍّ لِيُخْرِجَ الْأَخْلَاقَ السَّيِّئَةَ مِنْهُ بِتَرْبِيَتِهِ وَيَجْعَلَ مَكَانَهَا خُلُقًا حَسَنًا. Know that if you seek the path of truth, then you must find in your life teachers and guides, i.e. / mentors and murabbin, those who will develop you. Because this tradition of ours is predicated upon that. We are an oral tradition that one generation takes from the previous generation. The teachers of the past teach the students of the present, and the students of the present become the teacher of the past, and so on and so forth in succession. We are not a autodidact type of tradition, meaning, or by autodidact we mean that we take our sacred knowledge from books. That's not where we take the principal essence of sacred knowledge, but rather we take it from sudur al-rijal, from the chest of man. Meaning that you inherited from a teacher who inherited from a teacher. Because with that knowledge, as Sayyiduna Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu would say, تعلموا العلم وتعلموا للعلم الحلم. تعلموا العلم وتعلموا للعلم الحلم. Learn knowledge, but for that knowledge you have to learn hilm, forbearance. Forbearance is a virtuous trait that someone embodies. Forbearance, halim, being someone who is gracious, subtle, but discerning and can absorb and can handle a lot. That's what forbearance is like. The best example that I've thought about when I've tried to explain to people what is hilm, what is forbearance. If you're familiar with like dogs, not to ever, we are inshallah, a'azzakumullahu jami'an. But if you think of like a Rottweiler or like a Cane Corso, these are like really vicious dogs. Cane Corso, you don't know? It's too, okay. I'm interested in dogs. These are like really intense dogs, okay? Now, if you find a very well-trained dog, like from these really killer breeds that can devour a person, then those dogs, you will find them, sometimes you'll see if they're really well-developed, well-trained, a child can come and poke the dog's eyes, put their fist in their mouth, pull their nostrils, and the dog's just like doing nothing. But negative energy that comes from a perceived threat, this dog becomes what? A beast, right? So the dog, because of its tarbiyah, now it was trained, it learned cues, it learned ulum, it learned sciences, if you will. But then now it was trained with tarbiyah. So that's hilm. Hilm is when you are empowered with knowledge, but you know how to deploy that knowledge, right? So you're not fickle, you're not insecure, you're not quick to move, you're forbearant, right? You know how to bear. Forbearant means that I am able to bear the circumstances around me. I'm able to, manage them intelligently. I'm not someone who is like, on a hairpin trigger all the time. So tarbiyah is the principal function of why we study ulum in the first place. We are not a community that is engaged in an intellectual project of the theory of religion. When you go to academia today, when I was at Harvard, they teach about religion, they don't teach religion. Let's talk about the theory of religion. What does religion mean to you? What is it as a philosophical experience, a social, cultural experience? So what does religion mean to you? Like they'll say, for example, they don't teach about Ramadan, they teach about Ramadan. So what does Ramadan mean to you? Ramadan means food, samosas, qatayif, that's what Ramadan is. It's just a cultural experience. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. So many beautiful representations of Ramadan in the room. Like, the kalam fadi. Ramadan is about these very rich, robust, meaningful theological precepts and principles that should define how we think and feel about life, discipline, sacrifice, controlling the nafs, all of these virtues and values of Ramadan. So our sacred tradition, we must be careful that ulum, studying, is not just a function of curiosity. I have more information in my head about the religion. Okay, I'm curious and I want to learn, like people are curious and they go online and they learn all sorts of things. I want to learn about the ends of times. I want to learn about, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. I want to learn about the world of the jinn. I want to understand okay, what's this whole business with the Dajjal? Is he real? Jesus, is he coming back? Mahdi, whatever. Everyone has curiosities about the religion. But as one of the great scholars of the philosophy of law in Islam, or the principles of Islamic legal theory, his name was Imam al-Qarafi, he says, كل علم لا ينبني عليه عمل فهو رد. All knowledge that is not going to result in amal, in action, in productive action, then it is irrelevant, rad. We don't need that knowledge. What are you doing with that? That's why from the dua of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa na'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa'. We ask you beneficial knowledge, and we seek refuge in you that of knowledge that does not benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tell us about, the identity of Imra'atul Aziz, the story of Sayyidina Yusuf, and how old she was, and what her name was, and what the nature of her, like all those, spurious details that people are so obsessed with trying to know, like, but what exactly was, the color of the dog of the youth of the cave. Like, okay, there's knowledge that is not beneficial. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always guiding us to knowledge that shifts and changes and alters who we are as human beings. Right? That alters the nature of my spiritual apparatus. Okay, what's busying my heart? What's busying my mind? What's the nature of my nafs? What is the degree of my nafs? Do I have a nafs that is amara bisu, that implores towards evil, or do I have a nafs that is radiya mardiya, that's content with God and God is content with it? Right? Where is my soul in this equation? Is my soul, just buried underneath the mountains of, if you will, like a landfill? Sometimes they they make landfills over like really precious lands. Maybe there's ores, but like, do I have a landfill over my soul, so my soul doesn't even have a chance to breathe and connect to God? I'm so immersed in the, alterities, the stuff other than God on this earth. So he's highlighting here is that if you really want the path of truth, then you have to empower teachers that are murabbeen, that are going to help you grow and develop, that are going to actually teach you how to rectify the state of your heart and soul, how to shift and change the way you think about life. Often I've said this many times, a lot of people think shuyukh are just like vending machines for religious legal opinions. It's like, Sheikh, what's the ruling? Is it halal haram for me to do this? If the sheikh tries to introduce the question of like, why do you want to do this? Like, Sheikh, that's not what I'm asking. Just tell me halal haram. It's like, I pressed D6, what's wrong with you? Like, start banging on the vending machine. It's like, I want the Cheetos. God, don't ask me why I want a Cheeto. I just want the Cheetos. And that's the problem. That's a problem of our conception of religious knowledge. We just think that it's informational. Khalas, in the age of AI, if all a sheikh is data and information, ma'asalama shuyukh, we don't need them. But the reason why AI will never replace the actual enterprise of mashyakha, because mashyakha is actually a function of tarbiyatul arwah. It's min alim al-arwah, laysa min alim al-asbab. AI does not know ruh. AI knows asbab. AI knows means. It doesn't know soul. Our tradition is a tradition of the realm of the souls. That's why we have to, number one, we have to understand the necessity of this as a principle of my journey of religion. It's not informational. Having more information is not going to result in a better life. It's ilm nafi'a. It's beneficial knowledge. That's why we make the dua, Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'an wa qalban khashi'an wa amalan salihan mutaqabbala. You see, this is the triune. I want beneficial knowledge, a heart that is tranquil, and amal salih, and deeds that are righteous. That's where you find your sweet spot, as you say. You've triangulated and now you've hit exactly where you need to be. And so therefore, we have to conceive like, how do I think of religion? A lot of people, I listen, people come to me, I listen to the seerah, mashallah, I listen to this series, that series. Okay, you have a lot of information about the seerah. But has that turned into ilm nafi', beneficial? Has it turned into an operationalized aspect of your life? Have you altered and shifted who you are based on your knowledge of the seerah? Or you have more like armchair, like you're sitting there in an iftar over your samosas and your atayif, and you're able to say, I read this and I heard this in the seerah. But you're still sitting there and you're not the masjid. The seerah has not actualized into shift and change in your life. So it's just information at that point. And that's where, like I said, honestly, AI will resolve most informational things. This is the real, if you think about it, fitna, because a lot of people think, a lot of people are already now, when AI is still not 100% where it could be, although it's, evolving at an alarming rate, but people are like, I didn't have to ask, I just AI'd it, I asked, I chat GPT, that's what people right now. I chat GPT'd it, and it was like, gave me every opinion I need to know. Okay, that's not ilm nafi'a, by the way. That's information. You have no idea what to do with that information. You don't know how it's supposed to shift and change your life, because you're thinking about you're still in the vending machine model of religious education. This sacred tradition, the ulama, warathatul anbiya. The prophets, the ulama, they are the inheritors of the prophets. What is the project of prophecy? Right? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us in the Quran? رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيكُمْ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Here, the principal objective of the Prophet is to relay and convey the ayat, the signs of Allah, right? وَيُزَكِّيكُمْ, and to purify you. Okay, how do you realize that in this informational age? How do you realize tazkiyah? وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and to teach you the book and wisdom. Can AI teach you wisdom, or can AI give you information? So where do you get tazkiyah? Where do you get spiritual rectification, spiritual purification? And where do you get wisdom from? Because wisdom is a function of knowing وَضْعُ الشَّيْءِ فِي مَحَلِّهِ. I need to know how to deploy this information successfully, meaningfully. I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with situations where people who possess a lot of information about the religion, and they are considered to be very quote unquote scholarly in this space, but they can barely manage their marriage. And they'll call me up like, Sheikh, you got to come to my house. My wife is going to kill me. Socially, an invalid, doesn't know how to function socially. Information does not necessitate what? Tariq or sabil al-haq, the path of truth and goodness. So what I'm highlighting is what Imam al-Ghazali is telling his student is, you have to be keen on empowering in your life teachers who are going to help you grow and develop. People who are going to be a mirror for your growth. People will come to me with problems. And the way I view this problem is that it's at its essence a spiritual problem. The person is presenting, like it's a physical problem, or it's like a circumstantial problem, or that it's a relational problem, but in reality it's a spiritual problem. There's spiritual, corrosion here. So I have to address the spiritual issue that's at play, because that's really the underlying cause. It's the actual pathology of what we're dealing with. And then you try to negotiate that with people, and it's like, Sheikh, I'm sorry, you keep on telling me about being mindful of Allah and spiritual this and working on my nafs and stuff. I have a crisis, I need real solutions to my real problems. Okay, but Habib, what's going on, Malik? Are you coming for me? Salman's right. Just Salman, help him out, because this looks dangerous. Okay, all right. Jazakallah khair. I watched this coming in like it was like a tornado walking through. I was like, this is about to... Ammu Ramzi, what do you do, Ammu Ramzi? All of that, should Ammu Ramzi? I'm joking. But the point is that I'm highlighting is that, what's going on here? What's this one for? Zayd, leverage Ammu Salman. There we go. Okay, settle down. You're giving me anxiety. This is my son, by the way. So Zayd, no. Ammu Salman got it. Shukran. Yeah, shukran Habib. Jazakallah kulla khair. Barakallahu feekum. There you go. Thumbs up. So people come and they have these life issues, not able to reconcile and rectify the condition of their marriage, relationship with their children, their own sense of being and self, identity crisis, whatever the case is. And the problem that they're identifying is like, well, I haven't gotten married, or I haven't gotten a job, or I haven't this. They're identifying issues. Like, once again, at the superficial plane, because I'm thinking, well, my problem is this superficial thing has not materialized, so therefore I have a crisis. But that's not the issue, right? That's not the actual issue. The issue is a spiritual issue. The issue is a theological issue. The issue is I haven't come to really terms with my purpose in life. And where does virtue lie? And where does quality of life lie? That's sabilul haqq. What I want you to glean from this is just understanding what you should actually be looking for in life. It's ilm nafi, it's beneficial knowledge. It's one that's going to actually better you in your journey of life. But you have to choose to empower people like that. Because if you don't choose to do that, if you take knowledge or information that's like anesthesia, feel good stuff. I just give me the feel good. I'm in a lull, I want to feel better. All right, put on this lecture, I feel better. Let me keep on doing my life as I've been doing it. No shifts, no changes, no pivots. But I keep on coming back to religion looking for, right, a high, a hit, right? Just something like anesthetize me so I can keep on going. Give me a morphine injection in my knee so I can just get back on the field. No, Habibi, you should be, you need to shift careers, right? This is not how life is. But that's not how I conceive of even the religious space. This is when, famously that person, I don't want to mention unsacred names and sacred spaces, but when he said, it's the opiate of the masses. That's actually, when he framed that idea, he framed it on two levels. In some ways, that's actually an opiate of the masses. It's not just, as people take it on the negative sense, oh, this is something that anesthetizes the masses. On that level, we agree, 100%. Anything that just anesthetizes people so they just can function in their dysfunctionality, that's not what religion is for. Religion is not meant to make people functional in their dysfunctionality. I remember when I was in the corporate world, and I would go to Barnes & Noble because I was very disgruntled in that space. I just wasn't, my soul was not, gelling with that world. I would go to Barnes & Noble and I'd read the self-help section. All these people, I'm not even going to mention their names, but a lot of these names if you've been familiar with that section. I'm like, okay, I want betterment. I just want betterment in my life. Self-betterment, self-help, whatever. And I would sit there and I would devour, and I just came to a conclusion after reading so many of these books. I was like, these books, they're just meant to make you a functional bot, a functional clog in the machine. They don't actually want you to be better. They want you to be functional enough that you get up out of bed and go to work. Because the system requires you to be functional. If you decide, I'm so dysfunctional, I'm not going to get out of bed, I don't want to work anymore, da mish kwayis. Let's give them self-help. Here, inject, get up, yalla batal, ashoghl. Right? Where am I going? Why? I have no idea, but I'm going to go to work. Because, this guy told me 12 steps, step number 7 is, clean up your room and get out of bed or something. So it's, oh, wow, revolutionary. I'm just I'm just overwhelmed by the wisdom of this lost soul, by the way, completely lost soul. Drug addict, has no idea how to live life, been multiple overdoses, but people think he's some sort of messiah / prophet. Wal-iyadhu billah. And these are who people are defaulting to for guidance and wisdom and purpose in life. So I just, because right now what's happening is a lot of people think that they're going to find their self-betterment and self-worth in a lot of these characters that are out there, but that's not what they're going to religion for. Often, that's not the default. They don't go to shuyukh looking for that. So I just want to, relay the idea, the notion that you have to choose to empower the religious enterprise to say, help me be better. Put me on the path of haqq. How should I change my life? If you don't choose to do that, then what happens? Because we live in a very particular marketplace of religion. It's open source. It's free range. Whatever I like this flavor, you like that flavor, this speaker is exciting, this speaker is entertaining, I love to hear a nice story, this one makes me feel better. Okay, but am I actually on the path of haqq? Or am I just kind of swinging in the space of religion? I don't even know where I'm supposed to actually settle. My life isn't identifiably better, but whatever, I guess I'm somehow floating in the orbit of religion. Now you have to identify your purpose. And by the way, when it comes to really identifying the path that you want to take and the work and the righteousness and the virtue that you're seeking, then you have to be ready for work. That's why what he'll highlight is, he says that you need the murshid murabbi, The guide who's going to develop you لِيُخْرِجَ الْأَخْلَاقَ السَّيِّئَةَ مِنْهُ بِتَرْبِيَتِهِ وَيَجْعَلَ مَكَانَهَا خُلُقًا حَسَنًا. This is where there's a matter of تخلية and تحلية. Ikhraj is now to rid oneself of the akhlaq al-sayya, right, the blameworthy character traits, and to replace them with al-akhlaq al-hasana. And you need to have a mir'ah, you have to have a mirror, and someone who knows this space well and can say that's not good character. One of the features of our age, unfortunately, is in the age of what they call nihilistic leveling. Nihilistic leveling is the removal of hierarchy. So there is no hierarchy. We're all antum rijal wa nahnu rijal, we're all just equals in this battlefield of life. That's one of the most profoundly nefarious tools used by the quote-unquote secular liberal milieu to say, no, you don't defer to any, who is this person who thinks they're religiously an authority over you? No, it's like God is close to everyone kind of narrative. You can be close to God, you don't need, but by the way, that's conveniently leveraged all the time in the religious space, but you'll never find that leveraged in the medical space or the scientific space. You're not going to go into like a PhD in pharmaceutical research and be like, there's no authorities here, everyone's kind of close to medicine, as you feel, come and go, what's medicine other than some like the elixir of the hebel, you're not going to hear that nonsense there. But in religious space, there's no authorities. Come on, who is he? Who is she to be a religious authority? It sounds, it sounds convincing and convenient, and you kind of like tear down the edifice of this space, but never even come close to the world of the sciences or any of that space that's money generating. To say like there is no, of course there's hierarchy. You go into a surgical operational space, you go into like an operation, what is it called? Theater, operating room, and you say like, okay, you see all these surgeons standing there, and you come in and be like, well, I just chat GBT'd, and there's no true medical authority, and so like, what do you, that's not the right scalpel. Like they're gonna like arrest you, kick you out of the hospital, and you'll be like, restraining order on you. But in the religious space, no, it's like, they'll say لا احتكار على الدين أو في الدين. There's no, you can't do ihtikar. You can't claim authority for the quote-unquote religious, authoritative class. Authority belongs to the masses. This is one of the most nefarious elements of the colonial project. I don't want to get too much into the philosophical history here, but it is. The colonial project came into the lands of Islam and said, break apart all of this authority, because they saw in the public sphere how robust and substantial the infrastructure of Islamic learning was in so many of the lands. So I'm just, as Muslims who live in the West, who are trying to be on the path of piety and righteousness, we have to actually understand what the project is and who I need to empower. The Prophet ﷺ was sent to purify us and help us. How am I going to get purified? Do I know how to do it? No. Okay, who are experts in this space? Who knows how to do this work? Empower them. I'm not saying be a slave to them. I'm not saying be, beholden to them and, sit there and just, bow at their beck and call. No, I'm saying empower them so that they can teach you. Perhaps they know and they are wiser and can inspire you and spiritually rectify you in a way that you would, if you were to bang your head all day and chat GBT until you're blue in the face, you're never going to figure it out. So that's why he's saying it's a matter of replacement of akhlaq sayyi'ah with akhlaq hasana. I need to rid myself of blameworthy traits and replace them with beautiful traits. That's not just purely an informational thing. I need someone who's going to check me and say, hey, your ego is completely, enlarged. You're too angry. You're too self-centered. You're too self-absorbed. Every time I hear you talking, you're talking about yourself and your problems. How is it that you're always saying, who's doing that for us? Who's doing that? Our friends are terrified of us because we're like tyrants. We're emotional terrors. Like, people don't know how to... And our friends themselves can't even help us. That's why the friends come to me or to others, say, hey, Sheikh, can you help me with my friend? Okay, ta'ala ya friend. Nice to meet you. This person has no interest. This has no interest in actual growth or development. No, that's the problem. The problem is that we haven't standardized a part of our culture. So as individuals now, we have to take ownership of this. So he says, وَمَعْنَى التَّرْبِيَةِ يُشْبِهُ فِعْلَ الْفَلَّاحِ الَّذِي يَقْلَعُ الشَّوْكَ. His tarbiyah is like the work of the gardener or the farmer who sits there and he cultivates the land, pulls the weedy, thorny weeds that may destroy the crop. وَيُخْرِجُ النَّبَاتَاتِ الْأَجْنَبِيَّ مِنْ بَيْنِ الزَّرْعِ. So removing the alien crops from amongst the rich vegetation. لِيَحْسُنَ نَبَاتُهُ وَيَكْمُلَ رِيعُهُ. So that if you've ever done any farming or gardening, if you don't remove the weeds from your patch, what happens? The tomatoes won't grow well, the cucumbers won't grow well. You have to make sure that you create the right growth environment so that what happens? يُحْسِنَ نَبَاتُهُ. So the seed or the plant has an opportunity to grow. And يَكْمُلُ رِيعُهُ means that it completes its growth potential. Right? So it doesn't like only grow to a certain point of prematurity and then that's it. That can't grow anymore. No, the reason this tomato was limited to this growth or this tomato or this cucumber, why? Is because it didn't grow to its full capacity. So you see how this is a very hands-on, very scrupulous project. It requires a lot of nuance. It requires oversight. If you're a farmer, you understand. That's why, subhanAllah, one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ describes us as, he says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. All of you are shepherds, and all of you are responsible for your flock. And by the way, all of the prophets, they were known to be, at one point or another, shepherds. This is not haphazard. There is a quality about shepherding that's very much essential into our philosophy of religion, how we think of this space of Islam. And that is that when you're a shepherd, you are a very observant, aware, present person. If you've seen shepherds with their flock in the middle of the desert, they are very much in tune with the sensibilities of each one of their sheep, each one of their goats. They know their attitudes, their moods. They know their feeding schedules, their feeding routines, their peckishness of how they like to eat or not like to eat. Then they have to be aware of the looming threats of wolves or any type of animal of prey that may be around. So it's a very present, aware state. You're plugged in to who people are, who things are about, what's the mood of the room, how are people being shifted, altered, moved, what's the threats that may come about. That's all shepherding. You notice this is not just an informational thing. What is this? This is khibra, as we spoke about the difference between ilm and khibra. Knowledge is one thing. A khabir is something very different. A khabir has rich experience that only fortifies the knowledge. Like if I was in Egypt recently, and let's just say it was a infectious disease related matter. Okay, Dr. Lashini, I think I told you the story. So I was asking, I was like, I need an infectious disease specialist. They looked at me like, "Ma andanash kalam da." There's no infectious disease specialist in Egypt. I was like, what? Why? Because we're all infectious disease specialists. Every Egyptian doctor has a whole massive amounts of khibra with infectious diseases that a lot of doctors in the West don't have. That's why it's a specialty here, because it's more a function of knowledge. In Egypt, it's not even a specialty because the khibra, the rich experience, the knowledge that is birthed out of experience there is so profound that specialty doesn't even exist. So there is a thing called khibra, that no matter how much rote knowledge you may possess, you can only gain that true ma'rifah through khibra, through experience. Right? Seasoned. This is a seasoned, person, a seasoned lawyer, a seasoned engineer, a seasoned doctor. It's very different. Out of medical school versus, 20, 30 years seasoned. He says, وَلَا بُدَّ لِلسَّالِكِ مِنْ شَيْخٍ يُرَبِّيهِ وَيُرْشِدُهُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى لأن الله أرسل للعباد رسولا للإرشاد إلى سبيله. So So the Prophet ﷺ was sent as a murshid, someone to guide people to the path of Allah. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ شَاهِدًا وَمُبَشِّرًا وَنَذِيرًا وَدَاعِيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَسِرَاجًا مُنِيرًا. How much of this is informational and how much of this is mentorship, hand-holding, guidance? Let me take you to the path. إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ شَاهِدًا, we sent you as a witness. A mubashir, one who brings glad tidings. Nadhir, a warner. Da'iyan ilallah, a caller to Allah by the permission of Allah. Wasirajan munira, and a well-lit light source. So he says, لأن الله أرسل للعباد رسولا للإرشاد إلى سبيله فإذا ارتحل صلى الله عليه وسلم فقد خلف الخلفاء في مكانه حتى يرشد إلى الله تعالى. So if the Prophet ﷺ were to pass, then he left behind those who will be inheritors of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, so that they can do and continue the process of irshad, to be a guide. You know, like for example, if you think of these Nepalese Sherpas, they are guides, they're murshideen for all these Westerners who want to have a bohemian, unique experience. I just want to feel something, so let me go suffocate myself, in the mountains. So they need like these masakin, Nepalese Sherpas who are actually murshideen, who are like trained guides, who are murabbin, who can help. They are your lifeline. They are the ones who are going to make sure you get to the top alive, get down alive, not suffocate, not die from some sort of infection, whatever the case is. So you need a murshid in life. And I'll ask the average Muslim today, has your religious discourse, the thing that you've consumed your whole life, has it led you to a knowledge that has said that I need to empower someone in my life to actually guide me? Does the average Muslim think that way? The answer is no. The average Muslim does not think that way. The average Muslim is consuming content. It's content-driven community now. We consume a lot of online content. That's not Islam. That is not the project of Islam. Is this point clear? I'm not saying the content is not bad. The content is a function of the tarbiyah. It's a function of the growth. It's the function of the development that we all need in our lives. So may Allah empower us with a religious discourse that makes us understand the necessity of this. He then transitions into explaining to his student. The student asks him a serious questions. What is Islamic spirituality? What is ihsan? What is ubudiyah? What is ikhlas? He's asking like principle pointed questions. My teacher, please tell me, what is this thing known as Islamic spirituality, ihsan, tasawwuf, these words that we have in our tradition? What does this stuff mean? I want to get to the heart and soul of it. I want to become a person of spiritual mastery, a person of spiritual excellence. I know it's not just about what the limbs are doing, but I want to, rectify the state of my soul. What is this world? So he says, you have asked me about spiritual mastery. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّ لَهُ خَصْلَتَانِ. It has two essential traits. Al-istiqama, steadfastness and discipline. وَالسُّكُونُ عَنِ الْخَلْقِ. And to be muted, if you will, from creation. Creation is buzzing around and you've muted yourself from them, meaning that khalq do not dictate the terms for you, but the khaliq does. It's effectively what he's indicating. So there's steadfastness and discipline, and then there's as-sukun an al-khalq. فَمَنِ اسْتَقَامَ وَأَحْسَنَ خُلُقَهُ بِالنَّاسِ وَعَامَلَهُمْ بِالْحِلْمِ. If the one who has istiqama, spiritual steadfastness and discipline, and he has or she has rectified and beautified their character bin-nas, and how they interact with people, وَعَامَلَهُمْ بِالْحِلْمِ, and deals with people with the forbearance that we spoke about earlier, then they are a person of spiritual excellence. And he says, Al-istiqamatu an yafdiya hadda nafsihi li nafsihi. Istiqama, steadfastness, is that you are the last person. What steadfastness means is that you do not submit yourself to yourself. You do not allow yourself to dictate the terms of you yourself, who you are. That's istiqamah. I will say no to myself every day, every moment, every time and time again. I will not submit to the will of myself. Myself does not dictate the terms. I am not going to marry this person because of myself, or because of my feelings, or because of my wants, or because of my desires. Istiqamah is when I do ifda' ila al-haq. I always resolve to the truth. Meaning, I want a spouse. Teachers, guides, mentors. I spoke days ago about the mentorship matrix. I don't want to repeat it now, but I did speak about it as what I think the modern Muslim needs to empower in their life. A mentorship matrix. Go back to a few lessons ago, I spoke about it. You need to have shuyukh, you need to have wise elders, you need to have older brothers, you need to have older sisters, and you need to have peers that will check you. That's the mentorship matrix. Go back a few lessons, I distilled it even further. But this is where you go and you say, okay, I've now turned on my mentorship matrix. I want to get married. I want the path of haqq. I don't want a subjective path. I was just talking to a brother right now, and we were talking about the marriage stuff in the community. And everyone is colored by an idea of marriage in some way or other. Everyone wants it, but everyone has these red flags around it. I don't want what happened to my aunt to happen to me. I don't want what happened to my brother to happen to me. I don't want what my father went through to happen to me. Everyone's dealing with, whether it's real trauma, adopted trauma, adjacent trauma, something happened to others. There's this negative narrative around this stuff, and I'm just terrified. So everyone's coming into the space with anxiety, with their guards up, worried about the consequences. Everyone's just hedging. I'm getting married, but let me put my insurance policies around this marriage, because the likelihood is that this marriage is going to potentially really, really fall apart. So I just have to make sure my exit strategy is well developed. It's like you're coming into you're an M&A lawyer. Okay, we're going to do our deal, but we need to know our exits. How can I exit this contract if I need to? And people spend more time distilling the exit contract than it is the marriage contract itself. And because it's we've adopted and empowered all these anxieties and fears and worries and problems around this issue. But is that good for us? Are we better? Of course we're not. So now we have to empower a mechanism of truth, of goodness, of purity. Check, how do I actually establish a marriage journey where I'm fortified in a way that inshallah can result in objectively the best possible spouse? How do I do that? Now, I'll tell you the real tension is if we start to articulate in sincere, good faith, care for people, what you should prioritize, the scoffing is real. People are all right, whatever. I have this dream for my life. I want this. I have this whole idea of my storybook marriage. I need you to bring your nice, religious, spiritually motivated closer to this. Okay, but that's not empowering a system to actually help guide. That's just me wanting the religion to conform to what I want. And that's one of the real inherent flaws in our conception of religion, is that I'm not thinking of Islam as a project of self-reform. Rather, I'm looking for Islam to be something that endorses who I am and what I want. And those two conceptions are very different. That's why often people say, no, I want a religious discourse that is suitable to me and my life and where I am and how I like things. Okay, but is that going to help you? Why is it that we don't take the same attitude? If I want to become a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, we don't go into academia thinking well, I just want to make sure the professors kind of know my sensibilities and what I like, and they're going to, these classes are going to conform to kind of how I feel, and because I have an idea of this space, and there's none of that stuff. It's just there's a clear hierarchy, there's a clear journey that I want to be on. I want what these professors possess or have. I want whatever on the other side, so I'm going to submit myself to the system so I can grow in that space. Right? You'll go and you'll travel and you'll spend tens of thousands of dollars to identify the best mentor. This person is the top investment strategist, and if they put you through hell, but you know that they're going to empower you with the investment strategies or tools that they have, you'll put yourself through that hell and you'll keep your mouth shut because they have something that you or I want. But if my attitude to religion is not with that same objective driven mindset, but rather the convenience mindset, the me mindset, conform to me, like how come Islam can't just be convenient for me? Like I don't like this idea that I have to be, people always talk, there's this tension between me and Islam. Islam wants this, but I want that. How do we bridge these worlds? Simple. Get underneath Islam. Islam is not here to negotiate with me on what I like and want. Think of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what he brought into the Arabian Peninsula. Think of the message, the principle, a moment when the sacred truth was brought into the Arabian Peninsula. Was it not reforming in its essence, how it changed people's sensibilities, their methods, their approaches, their marriages, everything? It wasn't a matter of reconciling the two truths. And that's the problem. We live in an age where because the secularization of our time is so palpable, we don't actually appreciate how much we unknowingly have disposed ourselves as mini-gods. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. That we are somehow now in negotiation with the sacred tradition, with God. We don't appreciate how this has actually seeped into our conception of religion. But hold on, I am, if the likes of Sayyiduna Abu Bakr, who was a scholar in his own right, he was known to be a genealogist, a very wealthy merchant, a man who was of the cream of the crop of Qurayshi high society, very well respected. If he disposed himself in his proverbial journey to say, "In qalaha faqad sadaq," if Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said it, it is the truth. It's not, does it make sense to me? مش دخل مخي والله ما يخشش المخ يا شيخ. Like I was in Egypt recently. I went gray by the end of the majlis, sitting with some of my beloved. بس الكلام ده ما يخشش العقل. مش داخل مخي. Okay, if I keep on saying العقل والمخ, who's مخ and who's عقل, whose mind and whose thought and whose conceptions, it's too subjective. You can't leave truth up to this super fickle subjective exchange. Okay, fine, Allah said that, but that doesn't really make sense to me, so I guess it's false. A'udhu billah. Wallahi, I'm telling you, I'm trying to shine a light on a type of hypocrisy that exists in terms of religion. We don't apply this logic to all other sorts of disciplines, but when it comes to religion, somehow this is a very viable way, a very viable attitude. So, we have to now decide to say, all right, I'm not going to any longer defer to myself, but I'm actually going to defer to the higher truth, the actual truth, the only truth, Allahu al-Haq. There's a notion in modern philosophy that they don't like to hear. There's a very bad word. It's the E word. They don't like the E word in academia. It's called essentialism. You tell them there's an essential truth. Oh my God, you're just a bigot. How are you trying to say there's one truth? Meaning if you go into any space of religion or philosophy and say there's one truth, you're done for. You're called an essentialist. Meaning you cannot go and claim there's a capital T truth. You can only say, if you want to be viable in the marketplace of thoughts and ideas, you can only say there's lowercase t truths. Meaning it's your truth and my truth and your truth. And let's have a kumbaya discussion of our truths. And is any truth being realized? No. It's just we're appropriating, the word truth to be another word for my subjectivity, my feelings. So therefore there's this new age idea called my truth. But Sheikh, I know that's what you're saying, but this is my truth. Okay, why is that relevant? Why is that important? Why is that authoritative? I understand what I'm saying is is countercultural and hard to hear, but if I'm not saying you this, I'll genuinely be deceiving you. What does it mean to have a truth? Do I possess a truth? Or is there one truth? Wallahu al-haq. Allah is the truth. Wal-Qur'anu haq. The Qur'an is the truth. Wal-Nabiyuna haq. And the prophets are the truth. That's the truth. And Iman is when you come into a realization. Your objective belief system says that is the truth, therefore I submit myself to the truth. May Allah gift us that Iman. That's why لا تقولوا آمنا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. Don't yet quite say آمنت. Say أسلمت. I am a Muslim. But then when Iman comes into my heart and actually starts to define the terms of my life, then that's when Iman has become robust. That's why they asked Sayyiduna Muhammad about Sayyiduna Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu arda. They said, Ya Rasulullah, what's the deal with Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu? He's always sabiq bil khayrat. You ask any question, he's the first one. Who visited a sick person? Sayyidina Abu Bakr, I did. Who followed a janazah? I did. Who? I did. And the Sahaba were astonished. Where does he even find the time? So Sayyiduna Muhammad said to them something that's very, very telling. He said, مَا سَبَقَكُمْ بِكَثِيرِ صَلَاةٍ وَصِيَامٍ. It's not that he prays more than you, or that he fasts more than you. وَلَكِنْ سَبَقَكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ وَقَرَ فِي قَلْبِهِ. He has outdone you in something that has settled in his heart. That is his Iman. That's why he's known as As-Siddiq. The one who is absolutely truthful in what? What's the nature of his Siddiqi status? That he believes categorically in the truth of divine revelation, in the truth of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, everyone hesitated even for a nanosecond when it came to embracing this truth, except Sayyidina Abu Bakr. He never hesitated for a second. So for us as a community of believers, 1400 years removed from that, my objective is Siddiqiyya. I want to be Sadiq. You know, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصِّدِّيقُونَ, Allah says. Those are the people of truth and conviction. An objective of mine should be less hesitation, more embracing of the truth. Ya Rabbi, did you say this? Then that's the truth. Ya Rasulullah, did the messenger say this? Then that's the truth. And I will color my lens with the lens of the truth. I'm not going to say, well, this is my lens, and I'm going to adjust the truth so that the scope of my lens and the truth become visible. No. The truth is not to be altered. I am the one to be altered. The truth is true. It's fact. It's reality. You know what reality is? You can't alter it. I am the one who's very much compromised. Correct? Any one of us here sitting think that they're not compromised? I'm Yasir Fahmi, compromised. I need to continue to work on altering myself to the truth. And all of us are that way. So empowering the truth and then empowering the people who can help me get to the truth. Get your Sherpas in order. Find your Sherpas who are going to all right, because it's going to be when you sit there and you're like, I need that person who's going to be like, listen man, I can't see, I have whatever. My eyes are burned from the whiteness of the sun and the snow, and I can't see. And just take me to the tent, take me to the base camp. So he says, وحسن الخلق مع الناس ألا تحمل الناس على مراد نفسك بل تحمل نفسك على مرادهم ما لم يخالف الشرع. So there is this notion of, first, I never submit myself to myself. I rather submit myself to the will of Allah. That's istiqamah. But then there is husnul khuluq, good character. A manifestation of this process of spiritual excellence is the safa, the purity between me and God, and then the purity that exists between me and God's creation. So I want to purify this and purify this, if we're going to talk about it in spatial terms. So excellence of character, because our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the principal spiritual objectives that he has, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to make excellent people's character and to complete the perfection of people's character. So he says, حُسْنُ الْخُلَقِ مَعَ النَّاسِ أَلَّا تَحْمِلَ النَّاسَ عَلَى مُرَادِ نَفْسِكَ. That you never allow yourself to compel people to absorb you. أَلَّا تَحْمِلَ النَّاسَ عَلَى مُرَادِ نَفْسِكَ. I have this will, I have this desire, I have this need, I have this drive, and then I compel people to carry me and to absorb me and deal with me. That's not good khuluq. That's sayyi'ul khuluq, bad character. Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, pay attention very closely to what I'm going to say. He was never an emotional burden for people. But did he challenge people? Absolutely. Did he challenge their precepts? Did he challenge their understandings? Did he give them advice? Did he convey messages that they hated to hear, that maybe were intellectually heavy? Yes. That they were spiritually perhaps heavy? Yes. But was he, as Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a person, some burden on the human condition? Absolutely not. Never. He was never himself someone who was compelling people to negotiate him for his sake. Oh, here I am, deal with me. So you have to negotiate my ego or my nafs or my desires. Sayyidina Muhammad was never that. But did you have to negotiate his ideas? Yes. His message? Yes. Did you have to interact with them and really come into a point of yes, you did. So that's, once again, don't misconstrue, because sometimes people misconstrue being a nice person, having good character, with I don't want to cause tension. So let me just stay quiet. Let me not speak the truth. Let me not convey the message, because if I tell them this, it's just going to ruffle the feathers and it's going to pollute the waters, and just keep things as they are. So what happens then to the integrity of our Muslim community when we keep on shoving and sweeping the truth under the rug? What happens to us as a community? What happens to the foundational virtues that define who we are as a people? What happens to our conception of modesty? If we standardize immodesty, but then we're but we can't talk about modesty, so just sweep it under the rug. There's a lot of lying and maybe deceitfulness, but if you sweep it under the rug, we keep on doing this thing where the truth gets compromised under the false notion of let's just keep harmony and peace. No one wants disharmony, no one wants rancor, no one wants anger, but we have to, as a community, be empowered by a shared narrative of the truth. So we have to now choose to say, Wallahi, Ya Ummat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're together in this space, we're on this ship, this is one ship. But if, as in the famous hadith, the ship, you're trying to sail it, but then there's people poking holes in every part of the ship is going to sink. And then we have nothing. And subhanAllah, on that same analogy, what happens? The people who are poking the holes are saying, why didn't you tell us that we were destroying the ship? Well, we were terrified of the consequences of speaking the truth. No, the Prophet ﷺ was never terrified of the consequences of speaking the truth. He did call to the truth with wisdom. I'm not saying that you have to be a blowhard or belligerent about it. You use wisdom and you use the best of words. And may Allah help us to be wiser and wiser in our approach and use the best of words. It's that itself is where a lot of the work needs to happen. But that doesn't ever mean that we sweep the truth underneath the rugs. If the Prophet ﷺ were to have negotiated his time and space with that logic, he would have never introduced Islam into the Arabian Peninsula, because when was he ever tolerated in that early period? He was rejected day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And all he was saying, by the way, you know what the whole Meccan period was? Guess what? There's nothing in the Meccan period that's Sharia related. There's no law. It's all law, legislation, rules, regulations. That's all Medina. The only thing he was saying in Mecca was what? Allah. That's why Sayyidina Abu Bakr was saying, أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّي اللَّهِ. He's not even asking you to do anything. He's just saying, there's a Allah. All he's saying is Rabbi Allah. And this is why you're going after him? He didn't even ask you to do anything yet. Subhan al-Khaliq. And so we have to come to terms with what is the actual project that we're collectively working on. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the beauty of guidance, the beauty of good company, the beauty of the best of character, and the clarity of our objective. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan, وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show us truth as truth and bless us to follow it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and bless us to stay away from it. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll continue with the next question of when he asked about ubudiyya, servanthood, what is it? We'll continue that tonight, but inshallah tomorrow night. But tonight, right now, they're going to, I think, prepare for the 12:30 session. So we have to give them a few minutes to do that. Barakallahu feekum. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.